Welcome to this amazing real-time chat application with MERN Stack and Socket.io. This application is using all the majority of concepts of Socket and Socket.io using MERN Stack with the Node, React, MongoDB to make these things possible from the server, from the front end, and we are using the Material UI. Let's now see what kind of real-time chat application we are having. So with this demo, you will be able to see that yes, we can share the image, we can have a chat, we have a room system, but what exactly it's looking for. So let's just do the logout from both sides, and now we can start from scratch. So if I do the logout, and then you can see we don't have any new room button, but the new room can only be possible when you click on login. But we have not created a real authentication. It's just a dummy login system which is having a cookie in the session to make or simulate the user. Anyways, once you have the new room button, you can click on that and it will create a test room. So these information will be stored on the MongoDB. This means if I go on the home, if I reload this page, you can see the test is there, the room name is there. So I can go on the room, I can click on delete room, and you can see the room is really deleted from both places. So it's here, actually we have to remove it with the ID, not with the name. So I have removed with the name, so that's why I removed. Anyways, let's go on the test and see. Here we are, and go here also, and let's say, hey, check out my new reel. If you hit send, you can see it is on the right side because I have sent it. On the right user, you can see it's moving to the left side because this one is received. Okay, so this user is saying, wow, show me the real image. And you can see while I'm typing, there is a typing event is happening, and when I stop typing, you can see that is gone. So just send this message here, show me the image, like this, and yeah, we are getting this. And this is the time we can click on this icon, which is to select an image. Click here, it's opening this browser window for selecting the image. Just select any image and boom, that image is here sent, here received. So this is a real nice chat little application we have created with the Socket.io and implementing the image sending or sharing information also. So isn't it really amazing to try and see how all these things are working? Let's see in the video. But before that, before starting this course, make sure you go to Bitfume's YouTube channel and then just hit on the subscribe button and check out other videos I have created, just like MERN Stack course, which is really amazing. Then Next, Angular, MongoDB, Nodejs, a lot of amazing courses are here. So make sure to subscribe and like this video if you really getting something amazing from my courses. So before checking or before starting the course, let's see the real course structure what we have. First thing first, what is Socket.io? So basically the Socket.io is a bidirectional low latency communication for every kind of platform. It uses the WebSocket, but along with the WebSocket, it has also implemented various other APIs to make your life easy. Let's see what exactly we are going to learn in this course. So we will going to start with setting up Node.js. Then we will create our first socket connection and see how we can implement the socket. Then we move from a normal HTML to the React.js and see how we can interact or how we can implement React with the Socket.io. Then we will try to send and receive a message from React and from the server express. Then we will create the real chat working. We will create a chatting system working, and after that, once we have all the chat, we will design the chat sending message chat box. Then we will design the message box using the material design for both of these things. Then we will going to have a typing event. That means whenever user is typing, there is all the people on the room will see that someone is typing, so like that. And then we will use the React router for having the different pages in our React application, so that we can create different page for different rooms. And that's how we will move to the join room system. So we will see how we can join or create a room for different user. Then we will make sure the chat will work for room and not for globally. That means the message sent inside of the room will be available to the people who are in the room, not for other room or not for globally. Then finally we will see how we can clean our socket code and what are the best practices and how we can move the big code to different dedicated file and make it super small. After this, we will going to learn about the dynamic room. That means user can create a new room that will be a dynamic room. After that, we will move with the room information into the MongoDB, the database. Using the mongoose, we'll create the rooms models and do a lot of amazing CRUD kind of thing. Then we will implement a dummy user, and after that we will implement remove room. Everything is really good, but the real power of this application is file sharing. Just like you saw that we can share any file, it's really easy and really important. So once again, this course is not 100% correct, but it's really 100% useful to enhance your Socket.io knowledge. I say all the best to you, and hit like if you see that this course is helpful, and comment your views about this video or any suggestion for the future videos. Let's start this course. Let's get started with Socket.io, and here is the website, which is the same name, Socket.io. Now, how do we get started? Let's click on get started, and here we have a very simple real-time chat application. We will going to build it, but in a better way. So first we need to get started with Node or Express. So let's go to our VS Code, and first I will go and create a new directory called server. Inside this, I'm going to first cd into server and then say npm init with a y flag, so that I should have a package.json here inside it. Now, since we are going to install something which is going to create node modules, just before that I want to have a .git ignore folder and also one git ignore folder outside of this, so that we can create the git repository outside also. So there is two git ignore. One, the outside one, I will have the ignore for server / node modules, and the inside git ignore is just the node module. Okay, what next? We are on the server directory and I need to install Express. Okay, so this is going to install Express. While this is installing, let's create our index.js file. You can name it server.js as you want, but index.js is good. Now here we need to get started with Express. Now, if you don't know about the MERN stack, or if you don't know about Node, I have created very nice you can say videos on this, which is on the Bitfume's website. If you go, you will see here we have a MERN stack course, and you will find the Node full course like here. So these two are going to be helpful for you, and if you want, you can also check for Express.js documentation. So let's go here, and getting started part start with this same thing which we have already done. So how do we create the server? It's very easy. First we need to import Express, then create an app, and then listen to a port. Let's do this. So instead of using the require module, I'm going to use the import Express from Express. Now since we are using this Express, now we can say const app is equal to Express and calling it. And finally we can say app.get. That means when we go on the base URL, then what we have to do, we just need to get it, and then we get request and response.json, and returning as data is hello world from socket, although we have not created socket. Now let's create the server app.listen to a port. So I'm going to create another constant for the port, which is going to be, let's say 4000 for now. You can name it, or you can give port number anything you want. And once everything is done, then let's just do the console.log and say server is running at http localhost : 4000. Let's start the server. But how do we start this service? Let's run this with index.js with Node. So we have Node already installed. If you don't have, you need to just check do you have the Node or not. If you don't have, then you just need to go to nodejs.dev, and it's highly recommended to install the LTS version, long-term support version. And once you have it, you can see something like this. I don't have the LTS, but it's okay for learning purpose. Now let's start this index.js with Node, and this time it's giving error. It says that, hey, if you are using ES module like import system, then you need to make sure you have type as module in your package.json. That means let's go to the package.json, and here I say not here, actually at the above, type is module. And once this is done, we are ready to use this as like this. See, this is running. So if I can open, and yep, we get this hello world from socket. Okay, so that's done. That's the part of the Express.js. But how do we create some real-time system with the socket.io? Now how do we get started with the socket.io with Express? So we have already created the Express server. Now we need to create another server for HTTP server, which is Node module, and then we need to create the instance of socket server. Seems like a little confusing. Let me solve this for you. So we can go here, and the very first thing we need to do is we have to import HTTP from HTTP. Now what is this HTTP? This is a HTTP module from Node.js. So you don't have to install it. It's right available in your Node.js. Now what next we have to do? We have to create the server for this HTTP. So we say const HTTP server. I'm calling it HTTP server. They are calling it just server, so that I can distinguish between the HTTP server and the socket server. So let's call it HTTP server. So HTTP dot create server, and the important thing is on this server we have to pass the listener. So we have this app from this Express.js, so we are going to pass the app here. Now this app will be used for creating the server and doing all of the API thing like we are using here. And now we can use this HTTP server instead of this Express app. So HTTP server dot listen to the same port, everything is fine. Let's now run it and go to the localhost and see everything is fine. But what is the benefit of creating this HTTP server? We can link this server with the socket server. So what next? Next, we need to import server from socket.io, and after this we can say const io is equal to new instance of the socket server and passing the HTTP server like this. And this is all you have to do to start the socket server. Now, since we have this instance of the socket server, we can go here and say io.on, that means socket io.on connection. When there is a new connection, you get the socket and you can do anything you want. So for now, I will say connection is ready. Okay, so this is we did. So whenever we create new connection, this will be logged into our console. That's easy. So this is what we did. We started from Express, then we created the new instance of the Express called app. Then we import the HTTP. We created a server from this HTTP, and then with this server we have used the Express instance. Using this server, yes, we are starting our server, and also we are creating the socket.io instance of this socket.io server. And finally, on the connection of any socket, then we just log it. Okay, so this is done for the backend. What about the front end, the HTML part where user will interact? So socket works in two ways. So there is a backend, there is a front end. So both of them has to be connected, and there is a tunnel created between the backend and the front end. Once there is a connection between the backend and the front end, then this tunnel will be used to send the messages from backend to front end or from front end to backend. Let's see how we can do that. So they said that you need to actually serve a HTML file. Inside this HTML file, you can use this code which is going to start the connection. So let's copy this thing, and instead of this JSON we are returning, let's return this index file. And now we need to create this index file. So let's go on the server, create this index file, and let's call it inside the h1 hello socket. Okay, now let's restart the server, and then it says that dir name is not defined. Why is that? We all know that in Node.js dir name is obviously available, but since we are using the import the type module system, this dir name is not available. So we have to create it. How do we create? We first say, hey, there is a dir name constant, but it will be come from the path. So let's first import this path. So import path from path. So that's actually from. So import path from path, and this path is exactly similar to the HTTP, which is a Node.js module. Now I say path dot dir name, get the directory name from the file name. Now you will say, hey, where is the file name? So we need to create another constant called file name. This file name will come from another thing, which is we need to import from URL, and this is called file URL to path. So what this is doing, this is going to take the absolute path of this index.js. So that will become the file name. From this file name, the path.dir name will going to get me the directory name. But here we also need to say import.meta.url. This is done. And now once we restart the server, reload, hello socket is there. Now, hello socket is there, but on our server, we are not getting any log for the connection. Why? Because we have not used the socket script. So first we need to use or load this script and then create the new instance of IO. Copy this one, go here on the index.html, and after this h1 paste it. Once you're done with this, go on the HTTP server, which is localhost 4000, hello socket is there, reload. Seems like nothing happened, but this is a good example that if there is no error, that means something is working. Let's go, and you can see connection is ready. Wow, so we have finally created our first ever socket connection. Let's get started with the front end, that means the client side, with the React and the material design, so that we can create our chat application. So first we have to create the new React application. So we can use the npx create React app, and then we will get started with React. So let's go here and create a new directory called client, or maybe what we can do, we can go here and we can simply say npx create React app and call it client, and it will create a new directory with the client and have our React inside it. While this is installing, let's go here and go to the material UI and see how we can get started with this. You just need to add this thing on your React application. So this is the material design for React only. So mui.com material UI for React. Now we are here. Let's wait for this to complete. So now it's done, and we can just cd into the client and say npm run start. So this one is for the front end, and the server is ready with localhost 3000. But from where we are getting this thing, we need to go inside the client. We have this source, and then we have this first getting started with index, which is doing a lot of other amazing thing. I just want to remove this restrict mode. I don't want it. And then go to the app.js, and I can clean each and everything from here like this, and then say div hello socket, so that I don't have to do anything, and I can remove the CSS file, app.css file, removing the content, and everything is good, and we are get with this thing only. Now let's install the material UI, and that's going to be the easy thing. So let's kill this server and install. Now we are having this client directory, and inside that we have a node module, so we have to add that into the git ignore of our root, where we have both of the server and the client. So let's just add this and call it client/node module. Is there anything we want to add? Seems like nothing. So that seems okay, and let's say once again say npm run start. And how do we check that we have the like material design? For that we can start with a button, but before that we need to add the font, which is Roboto font, and that we can add inside the public index.html. Here we have, and also the icon, the material icon, and that's it. Is there any changes? I don't know, but we can get started with the button. So let's go to the component side, and we have this button, or we can have that button, but we need to add it like this and import it like here. See this material UI. Okay, so let's copy this one and go to our app.js. Now we have this, and just below it, oops, just at the top, use it like this, and then we can use the button called text, and finally we should have a text. Very nice, we have this. So now we have the client, and since we are using the socket IO, we need to go on the documentation section, where we have the client documentation, and here we have the client installation. So let's just scroll down and copy this npm for the installation of socket client. It's very important. Once you are done with this, just once again get started with the React application. And remember what we did on our backend is we had created an index.html, and then we had the initialization of IO from the socket client. Same thing we have to do here, but we will use the use effect, and then we can just import it, and then we say const socket. So socket is equal to IO. But from where we can get the IO? Import IO from socket client. Let's see, is this going to work or not? So that's good. And let's clear the server so that we should have our connection ready if everything is fine. Reload. Seems like nothing is happening because we need to go on the initialization. How do we initialize our client? So it says that once you have it, you have to get it like this, not the default one. So I'm going to say import like here, and once again go on the React, reload this page, and it should give me the backend, but it's not giving. So why is happening? Maybe I can do something like this, not on the use effect. So if I reload this page, nope. So something is not good. Let's see what happened. So the thing is, remember when we had done on the server end, we had the IO. If we are not saying anything, then it will initialize on the same URL where you are. So what we are doing here, we are initializing it on localhost 3000. But where is our server? Server is on localhost 4000. So we need to specify here the http://localhost:4000. So I'm saying that, hey, initialize this IO with localhost 4000. Okay, so isn't it good? And now it says, hey, you cannot do this because of the CORS error. You may think that, okay, since we have the CORS error, we can simply install the CORS package on our server end. That will be fine. But you are wrong this time, because we have to go on the socket connection, because this is not normal HTTP connection. It's going to be a WebSocket connection. So that's why we need to go on here on the socket documentation, go on the search and search for the CORS. When you go here, and then you can see we have a lot of amazing thing, and this is happening. The options we have to provide is when you create the socket server new instance, like here. So where we are doing this, and here. So just give comma, and then we say, hey, I need to have the CORS, and then we say, hey, I need the origin. Origin is going to be inside of the array, or you can also provide a simple string, but let's have this. So http://localhost 3000, because this is our front end. Now what happening when we go and try it? It's still not happening, because we have to restart our server. So node index.js, and now if I reload, no error. That means everything seems fine, and yes, you can see we are having connection is ready. Boom, this is how we get started with React and socket IO. But remember, every time restarting the server is not a good thing. So I'm going to install NodeMon here so that we can go on the server end on the package.json and create a new script called start. And here I say NodeMon index.js. So whenever we do any changes, it will restart my server, and that's going to be super easy. Now we have set up for the front end, we have set up for the back end, everything seems fine, and we can move it to the use effect, and maybe we can create a const of maybe we can say use state this time, which will going to have socket, and initially it's null. Okay, and then we say set socket, and we can have everything like this. Okay, so this seems like a normal thing, and we did it wrong. It should be here, not on the bracket like this. Okay, so this is good, and go clean, reload React, and we just get only once. Cool, everything seems amazing, great, and let's move forward with our socket MERN stack. So what next? We need to have a simple text box with a submit button, which should submit whatever I'm typing, and that should be available on the different window. So suppose I have another window, so without doing any refresh, we should have the message on the different window. Let's first have a simple you can say text field. So we have this text field, we can have this one and standard one. So I can just copy this text field like this, and import has to be from here, and it has to be like a box with a component of form. Let's have it. So go on the index like app.js, and here we should have that. So import our text field, and we have to import it like this, and that's good. But as I told you, it has to be on the box, and let's have this box and the component. First we have to import it, so box, and now component is a form, and we should have on submit now. So on submit is handle form. Okay, so let's create a simple function called handle form that's going to take the event, and first e.prevent default. That's the very important thing. Okay, so we should make this button as a type of submit button, and now we say submit or send actually. Okay, so how this is looking good. So remove the hello socket from here, and you can see we have this nice little standard, and we can make it small. If I can make it size is equal to small, so size is equal to small, and nothing happened. Anyways, we should start with this thing. So first we need to have the value for this. So value should be like what we can do, we can create another state, and we call this, maybe I can use a use state snippet, and we say that what is the message. So message is this, which is empty before doing anything, and we connect this with message. Now on change, what we have to do, we just need to get our event, and then we say set message, and e.target.value should be there. That's super easy. And now when we submit the form, we should log our message. Simple. Okay, let's see. Yes, doing. Click on send. Yeah, that's good, but we need to clear this also. So we should say, hey, set message as empty. Okay, so we log it, and then we say remove everything you have. So yeah, it's there, but now it's clear. And let's have a label is write your message. That's good. I don't need any ID. Variation is the standard. That's good. Finally, it's nice. But what we have to do, we have to send request from here to the backend, to our server, and then handle it via socket and see how we can do that. For that, we can go on the socket documentation, and first we need to see how we can move from initialization to socket instance and how it's going to work. So from the server, we emit an event. From the client, we listen for an event, socket.on. Similarly, from the client side, we emit any event, and from the server side, we listen for event, That's super duper easy thing. So how do we do that on the, oh, what happening? So that's not good. Yeah, so here you can see on the server side we can listen for connection, and after that we can listen for connect on the client side and disconnect. That's good, but we can, inside of this connection, we can do lot more thing. You can see different kinds of events we can emit. Okay, so how do we get started with this, whatever we are doing? Let's see. First, we know that when we hit send on this form, it should trigger, it should handle by this handle form function. And we also have this socket. So can we do like this? Socket dot emit. Okay, and now I need to emit an event, and we call it send message. Okay, so that's good. We are sending an event from our client, from our React. Okay, now we have this log on the back end. So go on the back end and open this index.js. Here we say that once you have any connection, just do the log. But I'm going to comment this, and now instead of this, I will say that listen for a send message event. That's good. So I say IO, not IO, I say socket, because we are getting this socket here, dot on, when, on means when there is a send message event, then you have to do something. So just log and say message received. Okay, received. Nice. So you can see there is no log here, even though if I'm reloading, I'm not getting any log. But when I say this is a message, whatever I'm typing, click on send, it's get cleared. But you can see we are getting message received. Whoa, that's really great. But where's the message? That's important thing. We have to send the message. So here on the second argument, we can send the real data we want to send, which is our message. So I say message is here. I'm sending it as an object. So now here on this on part of socket IO, when we are listening for the event, here on the callback, we get the data. So after this, we can just log our data. So message received and whatever the data we have. So let's see. This is message. Click on send, and now you can see message received, and there is an object where we have the message. And what is the message? This is message. Wow, lot of message. Now we are getting this data. That means we can listen on the server end. So front end to back end is done. Now what we have to do? We have to quickly do the reverse. We have to move the data from back end to front end once again. So just like we did on the front end, just like here, we are sending a message via emitting an event. So this is event we are emitting. Similar to this, we have to go on this. Once we receive this send message event, or this we can change it, we can say message send or send message. That's okay actually. So now let's see, socket dot, this time I'm emitting again a message. So I'm saying that once again it should be from server, message from server. This is the event I'm sending, and what data I'm sending? The data whatever I'm receiving. So whatever I'm receiving from the client, I'm sending back that same thing to the client from the server. Okay, so we are sending it. Let's see by submitting the form, and is there any error? No error, no log, because we have removed every log. But now this time we have to listen on the React side, on the client side, for this event. Okay, so where we can do that? We can do that on the use effect. So we say that socket dot on. Once we have it, what is the event? This is the event, and what we have to do after it, we have to say log message received. Okay, like this. Okay, so let's start this once again. So here we have some error. It says cannot read the property of null. So it says that initially this is null. So what you are trying to listen. So what you can do, you can say that, hey, whenever there's a change in socket state, then do this. And even after that, we can say, hey, once we have the socket, then start listening for this. Okay, so we can do it in a different way. I say that when there is nothing on the socket, then just return and do nothing. This is more clearer in my sense. So something like this. Okay, so let's once again go on the React, reload this, no error. That means we can send it, and yeah, we can see we have received the message. So we are sending from the client to server, server to client. Finally, just like we did on the backend, we get the data here. We say that, hey, just log the data. Same, everything is same. So this time I say this is message, hit send, and boom, message received. What is the message? Message is the message with a this is message. A lot of message once again. So this is how we get it. And I told you that we need to listen on the different window also. So here I am. And now let's see. Here I say message. On this time I say, hi, how are you? I hit send. It is received here. That's good. But if I go on the different, this is not received here. That's a weird thing. Let's try once again. Click on send. That's good. That's not good. Why we are not receiving it here? So currently we have the problem of not having the message on the other side of the application. If I send, we are receiving the message on the same window, but not on the other window. What is the purpose of using the socket IO? But before that, I just want to implement one very nice feature, which is disconnect. So just like we are doing the connect part, if I open the index.js on the server end, we have the connection, but we can also do one for the disconnect. So I can say disconnect, and I can just log, and I say user left. Okay, so user left means it's disconnected. Now we are using the node one, so it's already restarted. So let's reload. So nothing happened. Once again reload. Nothing happened. Again reload. Okay, so nothing is happening. So why is that? Because user can only disconnect once we have the connection. So this means we need to move this inside of this connection and call it socket.onDisconnect. So let's do this once again, and user left, because once it is disconnecting and then connecting. So you can see both are first disconnecting, that means left, and then reconnect. Okay, so this is how you can do the disconnection, and this is pretty simple. But the question comes still, why we don't have the message on the different windows? For this thing, let's go on the documentation and go on our client side. So let's close these things, and we have the client side. But even after that, we have a emitting the events, then we have listening the events. So we are emitting the event by using the socket.emit, this one, like this. And we also have listening for the event by using the socket.on. But next we have the broadcasting. Broadcasting means makes it easy to send event to all connected client. But we have one important thing. When I'm sending message, I don't want to see that message to myself. This means it says that once you emit the event, by the server, it's received by all client, but we want to have the message except the sender. So I'm sending, I don't want to see my message, but all other people who are connected to me or connected to the socket can have that message. So in that case, instead of just saying socket.emit, we need to add this broadcast and then do the emit part. Isn't it really interesting? Let's now implement it. For that, let's go here, and when we do the emit part, just before that we say broadcast.emit. Now see the magic here. Once we are here, I say hi, how are you, hit send. You can see there is no message on the log where we are sending the message, but when we go on the opposite side, you can see yes, we are getting this message. Amazing, this is really great. So what we have to do, we just need to collect whatever I'm sending from one window to other window and show it on our UI. That's easy. So let's go on our app.js, and here what we have to do, we have to create the chat. So I can say here is a chat, okay, which is an array of messages. Okay, so array of empty strings like that. Now when we do the set chat, once we receive the message from the server, then we say set chat, and then we can spread out whatever we have, but at the first, or maybe at the last actually, we need to say data.message. This we have to do. Let's see how this is working. So if I once again reload, I say first message send. We cannot see here, but if we go on the component for the React dev tool, make sure you have it. If you don't have, you can easily install it by googling like React dev tool Chrome, something like that. And now if I go here, we can see we have the first message inside the array. Boom, we have it. So first thing also we can do, we can remove the empty string. So it's an empty array initially, and then we are pushing it. Next, what we have to do, just above this, we can create a simple container and put everything inside this container. Let's import the container, and inside this container I'm going to have typography. This is all coming from our React material UI. If you don't know, you can go on this material UI and you can see somewhere we can find the typography. If not here, maybe on the card you can find it. Yeah, we have the card. If you open it, yes, you can see we have the typography, and you can put anything you want inside it to look really great. So we have the typography, and make sure to import it to do like this, and then we can loop over the chats we have. So we can say we have the chat dot map, and then we get the message. Each chat has some message, and then we can show this component which will have the message here printed like this. And now we can also use a box like this, so that I can do some SX, which is actually doing some CSS here. So I say margin bottom is equal to, let's say, 5. Okay, now let's go and start. You can see nothing is there, but we are having it. So I say hi, how are you? Boom. So now we don't have the key here, so maybe I can provide the key as a message. Don't worry about this, this is just a React thing, but you can see we have the message both places. So what I can do, I can just move these two side by side, and I can just refresh here, and this is once refresh here. I say hi, how are are you, hit send. So from here, message coming on this side, and I say I am fine. Yes, you can see this chat is really working. So are you watching Bitfume's video? So that comes here, but you can see it's replaced, not added. That's we can do. Yes, I am. Once again, it's not rendering exactly how we want. It's not adding to the previous one. It's always doing this. So what we can do, we can just say like, hey, once we have the previous chat, so just use that one and spread it and then do the thing. So once again, start with hi, comes here, hey, so how are you? Whoa, it's working. I'm fine. So watching Bitfume's video. Boom. See the real-time chat. We have implemented it so easily with very minimal setup. What we have to do next? Let's make it really amazing and bigger. Before moving forward, let's design our chat window and then we can see how we can do that. And first thing is, I don't want this send button and I want to change this look of this text box. So if you go on this and on the text field, if you scroll down a little bit, you will find this kind of text box which is having an icon right here on the right side actually. So like this one. Okay. So what I can do here, I can just grab the code for it. So first we have this form. Inside that we should have a password field, which is this one. So outlined input. So this is, I think, the outlined input. Okay. And we can simply copy this and see how this is working. So what are the things we need? So if we go on the app.js, it is having everything here right now, but we can change it later. But for now I can have this, and it need the outlined input. This will come from, as usual, material UI. So outlined input like this. What next? It says that you need the type, so it's always going to be the text, so I don't need. And then it says value. Value is the message we know. And what happened when we do the change? So it's going to the on change. Then we have some input adornment. So input adornment, once again coming exactly no, it's coming from the same thing. Yeah, so input adornment will come. So we can just go and copy this and do it like this. What next? It need icon button. I believe it is similar. So icon button, and now comes the real part. I don't want the icon to be like eyes button. I want it to be a different kind of icon button. So this should be gone and we need a new button which should be how is that? Okay, so first I can remove all these things. Maybe I can have it and remove this, and then here we need a send icon. So from where we can get the icon? So we search for icon, we got this material icons here. Just search for send, and yeah, we get it. So we need to have this button or this icon actually. So get it and zoom out and go at the top, include this send icon, go at the bottom and have this like it. Now since we have this send icon and everything is good, no error, let's see how this is going to look. Hey, it says that MUI icon material /send is not available. Why? Because it says that if you want to use any icon, what you have to do, you have to first install the material UI icon material package. And how do we install it? And yeah, it's given here. So if you don't have material UI in your project, you can have it the material icon MUI icon material Yeah, so this one we don't have, so we need to say on the client side. So we are here on the client, you can see npm install icons material like this, and once we are having it, we can restart our server and we can run the server actually, which is going to start the React if everything is fine, and we are good to go. So let's reload, and boom, you can see we can type something, we can have this send icon, everything is good. What next? We can go at the bottom, we can remove this button, we don't need that button, and we say that hey, this icon button is actually having a type of submit. Okay, and I can remove these two things like here. Okay, next I can remove the text field which we already have like this, and I don't want any ID here, and seems like everything is fine. Yep. And yeah, I need the placeholder also, or maybe the label we call it. So yes, this is a label, and have it, and size is small, and very soon it should be there, but oh, we can remove the label for the password, and that's good. Why it's not showing the proper placeholder? Maybe we need to use instead of it. Okay, so what we can do, we can see on our outline input we should have the variant also. Okay, so do we need the variant? It's not having that. Anyways, can we do the placeholder? Oops, like this. So we can do something like this. Okay, so that's good. One more try. Yeah, write your message. So message should come here, and we can say hey. On the right side we should have it. And we have a lot of hey. So why is that? Let's see. One hey will have it. Say hi. Yep, everything is working normally. What next? We need to have this text field we have looks better, and whatever happening here we should take care of that. So first we need to have a card, and that will going to hold the messages. So we also have the card, so card should be like this, and this card can have a card content and typography. That's simple thing. So this is the time we need to move this thing to a dedicated component, and for that go to the client side, create a components directory inside the source directory, and here we can say create a new file called chat window.js, or maybe JSX if you want to have, but here is the chat window. And now what I'm going to do, I'm going to move each and everything from here like this to this place, and obviously we need all the things which required like this. Okay, now everything is there. Next we need the chat state, and actually we need all the states, so all the states should come here. Next we need this use effect, this use effect, and handle form. Everything should be on its dedicated component. Now we left with very simple thing, and now we say chat window like this. Okay, now save this file, and it says some error. JSX must have one parent, and it's having two parents, so we can do a fragment like this. Okay, everything is fine now. Next we need to import the use state, use effect, and finally what about the IO? Why is saying that IO is not defined? Because I think we have not imported IO from our socket client. Now everything is fine. Try it once again, having this window out. So Yes, so everything is working fine. Now next task is to design the actual message content or message box. Time for the designing of the messages. We will use the card, and for the card it's very easy. Use the card as the design thing. So now we have this as the message. What we can do, we can first change from the box to maybe what we can do, we can have a card like this, and this is holding our component, and import this card. So if we go inside the window, we can see we have the card, but we should have some padding. So let's have the SX, and we say padding is 2. Now if we do something like this, it looks better. Now what we want all these to be at the center. If I zoom out, it should be it is center because of the container we are using on the right and the left, but I want it has to be at the center, and also have some margin at the top. So we can simply say comma margin top is going to be let's say 10. So yeah, that's good. What next? Next we should also have one very important thing is another maybe box we can use, and that box will going to make it at the center with the width something. So we can make it like, hey, I need the width, and the width is going to be 60%, and it should be on as a string. And yeah, you see this is here as a 60%, but I want this to be at the center. For that I need another box. Okay, and why I am having this box, because in this box I can provide some styling, and I say display is a flex. Okay, and I say that justify content as space actually center like this. Okay, so yeah, it is really at the center. Finally, what we have to do, we can make this with a background image, a background color. So background color of, let's say, gray. How about gray color? Looks good, but since we have the gray color on the background, everything else has to be white colored. The text has to be white color. So text color or simply color is going to be white. Okay, nice. So if we type, no, that should be on the text field which we have here. So we can provide some styling on this one too. Color is white, and background color for this text box is also white and not the text color. Nice. So we have this, and what next? Next we want to have the messages at the top, and this text field has to be filled as the full width. So this is going to be easy. When we have this input field, we just say width as inherit. That means whatever the content we have, inherit. If it's not working, we can move it with 100%. Yeah, we have it. Okay, that's good. And now above this we need the messages. So we have to have some messages like this. So let's send some more messages. So it's just because of re-rendering of the React, don't worry about that. So now we have a lot of messages, and we need to have this messages, and some of the messages which I am sending, that also has to be here on the different side, but the messages which I am receiving on the right side or left side, something like that. So for that designing, we need to change how we are storing the messages inside our state. Right now it's all the text what we are sending and what we are receiving. So how we can do that? It's inside this array actually. So what we need to do when we store the message, instead of directly saying this message as here, we can say, hey, yes, this is the message, but who has sent this? So there has to be two options. One is either I have sent it or I have received it. So I simply say received as true or false, something like that. So if I'm receiving any message from the backend, then it is considered as the true, but I can also add it like this. I say that if I am sending a message, then make it false, and this message is going to be the message whatever I'm sending. See the magic. So I say, hey, oops, something is not good. So if I just see, okay, so it says that, hey, yeah, so here we are looping through the chats. Now we have the data. Okay, so then we say data dot message, and then we say data dot message, something like this. Okay, one more try. Yeah, it's there. I'm sending this message, and same message is received by the other person. So if I say hi, I have that message, and other people is having also message. This person, the right side person, is getting this message. Like if I do this is message from the socket, but this message is I am pushing it on the state. So whatever, if I'm receiving, that has to be on the left side. If I'm sending, that has to be on the right side. So according to this data dot received true or false, we can move the content inside of this input field. How we can do that? There are many ways to do this, and first thing is we cannot do this on this outline input. If we try it like text align as right, if we try it, it's not going to work. You can see it is still here. So what we have to do, actually, we can do it in a different way. We can simply say here input, whatever the input inside this component we have is going to be on the right side. So if I now see this, you can see we are having this at the right, but this is for the text field. We don't want this for the text field. And you know, there is one more thing we can do. We can, instead of using width as 100%, we can also use a prop of full width that will going to be have the same effect on the input field, but we want this to be on the typography for the left and the right. So we can say sx give me text align at the right side. Let's see if this is working or not. So if I say something, and yeah, it's on the right side. But when it's on the right side, it is only going to be on the right side if data dot received is true. That means if I'm receiving, then it's going to be the left side, otherwise it's on the right side. So if data dot received is I can say, if it is true, then make it left, otherwise make it right. Okay, let's now see. Reload, and do it like this. I say, hey bro. Yeah, so since I'm sending this, it's on the right side. Since I'm receiving here, it's on the left side. I say, how are you, man? So yeah, so here I'm sending that message, so it's on the right side, and here I'm receiving, it's on the left side. I'm good. What's the plan? So we are having very nice chat. Wow, this is how we create a chat application with the designing. I'm interested in very nice cool feature we have on the WhatsApp is typing. So I want to see if someone is typing, and if that person is typing, then we should show that typing kind of thing. Let's do that. To have the typing event, we need to do the same thing. as user is typing, we need to send some event to the server. Server will listen for that and again emit an event from the server and broadcast it to the other user. Let's see how we can implement this thing. So first is when we are writing or typing something, we have this function which is doing. So let's do this with the handle input thing, and let's create this function handle input, and input like this, we get the event, and now we are doing a normal set message, which is normal thing. But here we need to do very important thing, which is socket dot, we need to emit and say typing. Now this is really amazing because now once we are emitting this event, we can go on the server and listen for the same. So let's open the index.js on the server. Just like we are listening for the send message, we can also listen for the typing. And once we are typing, we need to see if we are getting something or not. So just say log and logging something, and it's already restarted. Let's go and just say do and you can see whatever we are typing we are getting back, but it's not actually whatever we are typing. So if I say Sarthak, you can see it's logging what I have the text here. Okay, so since it's working, what we have to do, remember, we just need to broadcast and say typing without any data, because we don't want to send any data over this typing event. So we have emitted an event from front end, that typing, that event is listened by server said okay, broadcast it to other users and say typing. So since we have it, we can listen for the event on our chat window, and where we can listen once again when we have the socket ready. So we are listening for the message from server, and we can also say typing from server, just to make sure we don't have the confusion between the typing from front end and typing from the back end. So here I'm changing the event name which we are sending from the backend. So once again, let's start with this. Whenever user types something, we emit an event from the front end, from the React, and same typing event will be listened by backend. If everything is fine, backend will listen for this typing event and again emit another event called typing from server, and we need to listen that typing from server event here on our application. So once we have it, since we are not passing any data, we can just log and say typing ... Okay, let's try this. So open the console, reload, and see if I type something, it's not going to be here because we know it's broadcasted to others, not for me or not for the user. This means if I can just open this window, reload, and I say hey, you can see as I'm typing, you can see here it's written as the typing on the console. Okay, from the console we can go to our displaying the message. So another state called typing, say set typing. This is initially false. Okay, so once the user is typing, we say set typing is equal to true, and if set typing is true, we can show the typing just below or above this input field. So we have this material UI, and we can go on the material UI input once again, so that we can see, can we show some message just below the text field? And yes, we can do that by using something like this, or there are many ways to do this. You can see we have above for the broadcast bootstrap actually, so how they are using it. So here's the component, they are using it as a input label, and both of these is inside the form control. Okay, so let's have this input, and we have the box. We can say here this is the input. We need to import it, imported from material, and we call it typing, and HTML for message input. This is the ID we have to create. ID we have like this. Nice, and try it. Yes, you can see it says typing, but we need to make sure it's having a color of white. Do we have the white color? No, it doesn't have, so we can use the SX to have the styling color is white. Okay, so getting back, typing with 3 dot. Yes, we have it. Now when we can show it, once the typing is true, then we say that, hey, give me the input field, input label, actually like this. So let's once again try. We have it and we say, hey, nice. But next important thing is user has stopped typing, or maybe just focus out. Then we need to remove this typing, so we need to have another event. So there has to be 2 events: start typing, stop typing, right? Let's do that. So we can first say, hey, when we have started writing something, then we need to send an event called start typing started, or start typing, what's the good name? So it's typing started or typing stopped, the next one. So this is the event we have to listen. So go to the server, change it to typing started, and typing started from server. Okay, we can have the proper name, because to make sure we don't have any confusion, I'm using long descriptive name, but in real application you have a very nice properly structured message. So it has to be typing started from server. Now this is good. We said that, okay, it's fine. But when we have to stop the typing, once user stop typing something, that means as soon as the user is typing, we don't have to do anything. But if user is not doing anything, after some millisecond we can stop the typing. So we can simply say set timeout, and let's say after 200 second or 200 millisecond, actually I say that socket.emit typing stopped. Okay, let's have this one, and now one more event we need to listen, but let's do one by one. So here we are, socket.emit event stopped typing, but before that let's have a log and say stopped typing stopped. Okay, let's see what's going to happen when we say typing is stopped. Open the console, start typing, and as soon as we write, it is doing the stop. That's not good. So what is the real thing we are doing? So if you have any experience in the React thing, you may know that there's a debounce effect. So what is debounce effect? Debounce effect is simply saying that you have to first create a like a timeout constant, which is something like this, and then we say that if there is something inside the timeout, maybe we can do like let timeout is something, and then we set it. So if there is something inside the timeout, then do the clear timeout and pass the timeout we have created. Okay, so if we have something in the timeout, then clear it, and and obviously we have to create the another timeout. Now what is happening? Once user stop typing, then after 200 milliseconds this will going to work. But before 200 millisecond user again pressed any other key, it is going to clear the previous timeout. So for that we need to actually create a new state. So use state which actually going to say timeout, and initially it's null, and then we don't have to do this. We can simply say set time. Okay, we need to make it, we need to use the different name, otherwise we will have some clashing. So we can say typing timeout. Yeah, this is good. So typing timeout is initially null, and then we say that, hey, we need to say set typing timeout is this one. So if we have something on the typing timeout, then clear this typing timeout, otherwise start creating another set another timeout on this state we have. If you're not getting it, don't worry about that. So you see, if I press any key and it's moved out without typing anything, it's just logged. But if I keep on typing, you can see there is no log. So it's very important to listen for the user and let's just make it bigger for you. So you see, if I'm typing, if I stop, you can see there is a log. Then start typing, stop, there's another log. So this is what we really want. Okay, so since we have created the debounce effect, now is the time to emit this real event, and make sure this is 1000 so that it will give some breathing time. Now stop typing, and we know what we have to do. We need to create another one, and it says stopped, and typing is stopped from server. This is the event, and we need to listen once again, same thing, and we can say typing stopped from the server and just make it false. That's easy. And since we don't have to do anything, we can use it inline with the arrow function like this, and it's really looking good. Code is good. Now let's try this. Okay, so I say, hey, how are you? And if I stop writing, you can see there is no typing event available. Okay, that's the typing thing with our chat application with Socket.io. Now let's have the room feature in our chat application. So how we can do that? It's simple. Like from various users, we want certain user to have a group chat kind of thing. So that include the room system. So normally what we do is just do something on inside the connection, but this time we just need to say socket.join and the room name. That's it. That's the easiest thing we have to do. Okay, so let's start with this, and let's say I want a user to join a particular room. So how we can do that? So joining a room is okay. Whenever there is a new connection, user will say that, okay, this new user will join some room, and whenever we need to emit and do something, and that will become like this. Okay, so first thing is, here we have two windows, but we don't have a way to distinguish between the different kind of rooms or different kind of group. For that, first I want to have a React router, and then we will have the UUID package. Let's implement these two things. So let's go to the React router DOM, not just DOM, the React router, and inside this React router, let's go and get how do we get started? Get started with tutorial, and it says that first you need to install React router DOM. Okay, so let's go on the client side. So here I am on the client side. I'm installing React router DOM. What next? Once you have this React router DOM, then you need to add this where is that? Router provider in your app.js or index.js in our case, and then create some routes and then move that route or link that route to our provider. Okay, so let's go on the front end. We have this index.js. Here we are using this app, but now instead of this app we need to say router. Is that router? Yeah, router provider. So we need to have the router provider here, and on this router provider we need to provide the route, but we are going to import these things from our React Router DOM. So let's have this React Router DOM like this. Okay, so we have the React provider, but it should be router. And now from where this router will come, so we are going to create another directory or maybe just a file called router.js, and then we just say we need to just create a const router, something like this, routes, and then export default router. Okay, now let's import this create browser router like here, and then we can simply say import router from same router.js file. So this is done for this, and now when we go on the base URL, what we have to show right now, if we go and see, it's going to show you are offline. That's not good. Why it's showing something like this? Because it has to show hello world. Remember, I need to start the server. So I have started the server. Now you can see it's going to show me something like hello world. Boom, hello world is here. Why? Because here we have said that once you go on the slash, this will be there. But instead of this, I will say that, hey, I need to have this app component. So let's say import app from, and we need to go and say app like this .js, and now if I reload, yes, I'm having back or back with this component. But now what I want to have first a navbar at the top. So why don't we have a card here at the top? So before that, what we need is in our app.js we are showing this chat window. So it will be like slash chats, then we should show this chat window like this. Okay, so we should create the children, and this is going to be an array of object of path slash chats is equal, and element we will show is going to have chat window, this one. Okay, so this is good. So now if I go on slash chats, seems like we are still having the same chat window, because if we go on the app.js and if we comment this and say hey in the container, we just see hey, no chat window. So how do we correct this? On the React Router DOM, whenever we want to show some children, we just need to do one thing, which is where is that outlet thing? Where is the outlet thing? Maybe if I'm not getting it, I can do the search. So I can say search for outlet. Yeah, we reached to this point. So we just need to have this component in our app.js. This is on the outlet, and now import this outlet from React Router DOM here. Now this means whatever now we say, if we are on the slash chat, it will show something like this, and if we are on home page, then it will show nothing, because on our home page we are just having this app which is not having anything. Now here we can simply use the header, and this component we have to create. So let's go and create header.js, and this is going to be a React file, and let's finally import this header, and you can see we have the header. Now this header has to be a card. So let's go here, and now I can say, hey, I need the card. That should be coming from material UI. So I can copy this and paste it and call it card. Okay, now since we have the card, we can simply say that inside the card we need a button, and button once again coming from the material design button, and this will say chats. Okay, now you can see we have nice little chats. And what next? We need to have a link here which should lead me to the chats page. So how do we link? So let's search for the link thing, and it's very easy. Just from the React Router DOM we can use it, and then we can say to part where we want to move the user. So it will be like this. So hey, first import it, and then we can say link will move like this, and then I say to part is /chats. This means now if I go and click on chats, you can see I am on the chat. Maybe I can also have one for home. So instead of having a like button, can we have the typography, how it's going to look? Typography, or is this typography like this? Okay, so typography, yeah, imported, and that's okayish. I think the button was good. Anyways, so we can simply say this button is having a type of, not the type but variant of text, and this one also. Okay, so this will be like home, and move it to the home. So this looks good, and finally I can have the margin here. So sx of margin top of 10, and yeah, maybe 5 will be good. Okay, that's good. And finally, let's have one more thing here called raised, and also provide the background color as no suggestion, background color of, once again, let's say gray, and this will lead us to something like this. And on these buttons we can have, like, once again, text simple color is white, yeah, and also text decoration has to be none. So text decoration is none, and it should be removed. Hey, why it's not removed the underline? Let's see what options we have. So for text decoration it's not giving anything. If I say none, oops, anyways, it should be there, but text underline, anyways. So we need the text decoration as none. So but none is not taking as the thing. So anyways, we are having it. So home, chats, and on the home I just want to say one thing is like having a typography of typo. And maybe what we can do, we have this element here, and on this, yes, we can say that, hey, typography is welcome to my chat app, and use this one like here, and that should be available. What happened? Oh, so make sure you are typing it correctly, typography. Okay, so this looks like here we have, but that's going to be everywhere. So what we need to remove it from here, and we can go on the router, and first as a children, what we can do, we can say another object, and this will have the path of slash, and then element is going to be the app, or maybe home, actually not the app, and this home will come from the home page. So let's have a page called pages, and inside this pages directory we are going to create one called home.js, and this home will include this typography thing. Okay, so how do we use it? So on the chat window we can grab anything and we can paste it, copy, import. That's good. Now we have this home element which should be coming directly from our pages. So slash pages slash home.js. Similar to this, we can also have one more page called chats, and let's create chats.js. This will only going to have this chat window. So this chat window will be here. Oops, not this. Okay, so chat window will be like here. We can import the chat window, and we just need to go up a directory, and then we should have the component, and that's good. And here we can just say chats, which we have already there. Okay, so everything is fine. Home is this, chat is this, something like this. And if you once again want everything to be at the center, we are having this chat window with this box of at the center. So we can cut that box and move it here inside it, like box. Okay, so we need to import this box also. So like here, imported, and box from the material design, no closing tag. What it's saying? Oh yeah, like this. So finally we have done, and let's remove this, and everything will be at the center, but we have something different. So let's open the app. So this should outlet header should be outside of this. Yeah, so home looks good, chat, home, chat. Finally we should have rooms. So maybe I can create one for room slash room ID. This will be the thing. So I say room 1. Okay, and this will going to create another room 1 thing. So since if we go right now, we don't have any room or room ID, so we will implement this in the next episode. Right now we are having this room which will take me to the localhost 3000 /room ID, but from where we can get the room ID? So it has to be a random number or random string. So I say UUID package. I'm going to use it, and let's have it. And this is a very nice package. You can see the number of downloads, and let's install this on our front end. This is very important to install it on our front end. Now since we have it on our front end on our client, what we can do, we can simply create a new room by going into our header, and then we first see how we can use it. After installing, we can import this UUID thing like here, and then we can call this to create a new ID. So here we can simply say const room ID is equal to this thing. So this room ID we can provide as our link. Okay, So it has to be something like this, and it should be included like here in a backticks. Nice. Okay, so it will lead me to a random UUID with a room ID. So let's go, and if you click on the room, you can see we are getting error, but this time after room we have a long unique ID. We can use this ID to create something. So since we have this, let's register our route to handle this room component. So I say if there's a room, and after that we have any room ID, then I say room. Okay, the room is a page I'm going to create, so I say room.js, and here I should get the room, and I will use the use effect, and inside this use effect I'm going to show the room ID from the URL. So how do we get that? So we need to go on the React Router DOM and say params. So how do we get the params? So it's going to be easy by getting the params from the query, maybe we can call it. So from the params, okay, so we can use this use param hook from React Router DOM to get our thing. So we can import it like this and say const params is equal to use params, like here, and then we can get we can simply log this params if we have the params in our component. So let's import this room, and then it's going to work. See, open it. Now we have the room ID. Wow, that's really amazing. So what we need to do, we remember we have this socket. It says that you can ask user to join some room, and this is the room name. Okay, so whenever we are on this page, we can just send an event, and then that event will going to ask user to join this room ID. So how do we do that? So what we have to do, we have to just go on our room, and here we need the socket. So const socket is equal to IO, and remember we need to import IO like this from socket client. Okay, then from this socket dot emit, and I say join room, and then here comes the room ID as params dot room ID. Okay, that's the only thing we have to do. So join room is an event, so this means we need to go on our server side. Here we can go on the index.js, and just like we are doing a lot of amazing thing listeners, we can create another listener for join room, and this time we get the room ID as here, and we just need to say socket dot join, and we need the room ID. Okay, so let's just do a log, and we say joining room, and then we should see if I reload. So it's not there because first we need to do the connection. So remember, on our chat window we are using this and doing the real connection from the socket, and then we are moving forward. So instead of doing something like this, what we can do, we can move this thing like the socket connection on our app.js like here. Okay, so that we don't have to do the connection again and again. So let's go on the chat window, cut this and go on the app. This will make sure that we don't have to do the real connection again and again. So we need to import the IO also, so which we need to do from here, cut, paste, that's good. Then we need the socket, so socket state should be there like here. Okay, So we have this socket which is something like this, and after some time we are actually doing the connection, and once we have the connection then everything is fine. So we need the socket. How do we pass out the socket everywhere? Okay, so for that we can pass it as something prop like thing, but it's not that. So we need to go on the React Router DOM and search for context, and here we have the outlet context. So as a context thing we can pass whatever we want, and then in any child component we can say use outlet context and we get anything. So it's very easy. Context is going to be our socket, and we are done with this. This means we can try this and see if we have on our home page or not. So we say const, and it's going to be like inside an array or whatever you want to pass. So see this, it's going to be like this. Okay, so what we can do, we can get back it and pass it like this, and now on our home page I can say socket is equal to use outlet context like this, and this should come from React Router DOM like here. Good, yeah, so this is good. And now let's just log the socket and see what's the result. So yeah, you can see if I go, yes, we have the first null and then we have the socket. So what we can do is, since we can easily get the socket anywhere, we can just go on our chat window, and now here we can get that socket. Use outlet socket is there. So we said that once we have the socket, and then do anything you want. Okay, so this is how we pass out the socket to everywhere. And in that case, if I now go to the room where we actually get started, we don't have to initialize the socket, because now we can simply say const get me the socket from this outlet, and this means now I can import right here and say if there is a socket then join the room. Wow, that's really good. So let's see if I reload, go on the room, and yeah, you can see we are having a joining room. Now let's implement the real room. So one problem we have is whenever we refresh on the room we get this kind of error, which is because we need to first check if there is no socket, and like this, then just do nothing. Okay, that's good. Let's reload. Yeah, it's working. Okay, next I was looking for this to remove the text decoration, and for that we can go to the header, and we are having this text decoration on the button. Now instead of this here having this on button, we can move this to the link, because the actual link we have is this, and this is actually creating our anchor tag. And now text decoration as none comes here, and you are good to go. Cool. So what we actually want, so let's go on the room, and it's similar to the chat component or chat page. We need this kind of chat box here on the room. So let's go on the room, and instead of this I'm going to say I need a chat window. Okay, so let's import this chat window from component chat window.js. Okay, now both of these places, in the room and in the chat, we have the chat window, but here we need to do amazing thing. Like, see, if we have one user here, and then if we have another user here, but the last user you see is just going to the chats. Now here I think I need to do one more thing. So it's like div, and then what I can do, I can just say typography and import this typography. So import typography from @MUI/material/typography, and inside this I'm going to say room, and the room ID will be like params.room ID. Okay, so this is just to make sure we have a nice okay, so once again there is spelling mistake. So typography like here. So whenever we are on the room, you can see we are having this kind of room ID. Now this person on the last one is just on the normal chat. So if I say hey, you can see it's broadcasted everywhere, and if I hit send, you can see it is received by the room people also. And if I say I am from room, you can see it's same working everywhere. So first let's implement one thing which is like the typing event, but let's just fix this. Maybe we can have this room name or ID inside the chat window, not here. So I can remove these two things, go to the chat window, and we just say that if we have the params, so we can say const and params is equal to use params like this, and this use param will come from React Router DOM. And if you want, you can destructure the room ID directly from the params. And now we say that if we have the room ID, then show me this typography and add the room ID like this. So if I am on the chat window, you can see I don't have any room ID. Here I have the room ID. That's good. So what next? Open this on here, same window, but now if I type, that's working, but that's not good thing because we know that it is also working on the normal chat. So let's implement the chat thing first. So whenever we type something, why can't we just pass the room ID? And now if we are passing the room ID and then go on our server, here on the typing started, we are emitting to everywhere, like broadcasting to every user who is connected to our connection socket. But now since we are passing the room ID, we can say room ID. It could be null also. So we say that, hey, first let skt, which is a socket. So I say socket dot broadcast, and then I say skt is equal to, if there is a room ID, then you need to broadcast on the room ID which we are having, otherwise do nothing. So skt will be the same, the socket skt dot emit. So finally, if we have the room ID, then emit only on the room ID, otherwise emit everywhere. Okay, so let's see. I am on the chat on the left side, and on the right side I am inside the room. So if I start typing, you can see there is no event going here. But is it working on the real room? So let's get inside of the same room with this ID and let's try to type. Okay, so something is not happening. Good. So why this is there? So there is some problem. It says that skt.on is not a thing. Okay, so how do we do that? Let's go on the socket, and for rooms, this is how it's, where is the room? Yeah, so it's on the to, not on. So socket dot to some room, and then we start working. Okay, so let's start typing, and yes, we have the typing. But if I go on the room chat, not on the room, so you can see there is no typing event. Okay, so let's once again go to the same room, and let's implement the typing stop. So we can go here, Just like we are passing the room ID on the typing started, let's pass the room ID on our typing stop also. And now we need to handle the same thing on our backend. And we did exactly this, and copy it and then broadcast here also. So socket.emit like this. Okay, so let's start with this, and I say hello and stop typing, and it's not working. So I have some issue, and the issue is I need to get the room ID, and once we have it, then we can start working. Hello and stop typing, and that's gone. So send a message, it's here. Now this chat window we have is a global one, so everyone from everywhere, from every room can access it, can access this. So we don't need this chat window, because that is not a good thing. We don't want any message to be delivered to everywhere. So here also, when we are sending the message, then we have to get the room ID from the data. So maybe what we can do, we can say, hey, here's the message, and then we pass the message only, but from this we can also get the room ID. Okay, so just like we are doing here, same thing we can do on this part. If there is a room ID, then broadcast the message to the room ID only. In that case, we also need to pass the room ID here when we send a message, so that if we go here and open this, if I am on the chat on the left side, inside the room on the right side, if I say hello or hey, still it's broadcasted to everywhere. That's not good thing. Let's see why it is happening. So we are sending the message and we say that hey, message is there, and so what happened here, it says that we have the room ID. Can we check it like here? So let's log room ID and see if we are having the room ID. If I send the message, yes, we have the room ID. So it should only do by saying SKT. That's I always forgot. So reload on left and on the right, and now if I say hey, it's not on the chat, on the global chat, but if I go on the same room like this one and say hi, you can see everything is working. So good, nice. So this is how we implement the room thing only inside of the socket.io on our MERN stack socket chat application. Right now, everything we are doing inside this index.js, which is okay for now, but as our application grow, we have to extract this logic somewhere else. So see, everything is inside this callback. That means we can create a socket routes or just a socket thing. Basically, what we need, we can go on our backend, and here we can create a new directory and we can call it socket. Inside this, I'm going to create let's say socket routes.js. So this is socket routes. Okay, so we are calling this socket routes. That means we can simply say const routes, or I can say sockets is equal to the callback, which will get the socket here, and just like we are doing everything here, so each and every thing can be moved inside this file. And finally we can say export default sockets. Okay, now since we have the sockets here, we can just go inside this index.js, and instead of this callback, we can simply say sockets. So let's import sockets from our sockets directory / we have routes.js, or you can also call it sockets.js. maybe that will be good in my opinion. Okay, so naming convention is good, and finally we have very clean io.connection. On the connection we have all the socket. Let's try this and see if it is working or not. So here let's say hey, send it, it's sent, and now we are receiving it. That means it's working fine. Next we can do is, like, for each and every event we can create the controller. So it's all up to you, but I'm going to create a controllers directory inside of the socket because this is just for the socket. And now I will create a typing controller.js. okay, and inside this you can see we are doing a lot of things inside this typing started. So cut everything and then say export const typing started is going to be this function. Okay, so we need to import from here. So at the top I can say import typing started from this controller, and then typing started is something like this. Similar to this we can also do for our export const typing stopped is like this. Okay, so then you will see here we also need the socket. Is this going to work or not? We will see, but first let's import typing stopped like this, and now go reload this page, and if I say hey, you can see it's not working. You know why? Because here it need this socket which is not available inside this. Now what we can do here, so I think the error is coming because we need to say typing controller.js. okay, let's see, is there any error? No error. And reload on both sides, say hey, and that's again failed because of some different error. Now it says socket is not defined in our controller where we are having all these callbacks. So the question comes, how do we get the socket inside this? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to convert this to a class, a JavaScript class. So I say export default a class called typing controller, and inside this I'm going to create a constructor. Okay, this constructor will going to have a private socket variable, and then actually we just say socket. We are not using any like TypeScript. So inside constructor we get the socket, and we can actually define it like this dot socket is equal to socket we are having. Now we can move these two functions and making it as a method of this class, and now for this socket we say this dot socket, and now we have the socket in our class. So instead of saying it like this, I say typing controller and create a new instance of typing controller. So typing controller is equal to new typing controller, and here pass the socket. So this will become something like dot typing started, and once again dot typing stopped. Okay, so let's now see on our server if anything is wrong. No, nothing is wrong, everything is fine. Reload, yes, on both sides typing is working. Stopped, yes, send message, and everything is working. So this is how we extract information to some logic where we have the controllers. Now so simple, we have the join room, so we can create a controller called room controller.js. okay, so export default class room controller, and here we always need this socket thing. Okay, so if we can just copy and paste it here, we do the same thing, and this time we need the join room, and cut and paste this, and we say join room will be something like this. So we don't need it, and this will be like this dot socket. Okay, so we need to import our room controller. So room controller, create a new instance of this. So it will be like room controller with a small r and room controller. That's good. And then we can use room controller dot join room. Okay, so now let's see, server is good, everything is fine. One more time. Yes, working. Okay, the last one is send message. So I can create a message controller.js and same export default class message controller, and remember we need to do the same thing for our socket. We are repeating ourselves many times. So let's create a base controller.js. So export default class base controller, and here I'm going to paste it, and this is not going to do anything. And now for every class I will say extends base controller. When we do this, we don't have to do something like this. And just to prove that this is going to work, we can go on our message, we can go on our room controller, we can remove this implementation and say extends base controller, and we need to import this. So it will be like this. So imported. Cool. Same on the typing controller, like this, extends base controller, and remove the constructor part from here. Okay, this become super clean. Is this working fine? Okay, so we have some issue. What's the issue? Issue says that cannot find module called base controller. Remember, we have to do base controller dot JS. I forgot this every time. So copy this, paste it on here on the room controller and on the message controller. How about the server thing? This time server is saying no issue. Finally, everything is fine. Wow, seems like everything is good. And final thing is we need to move our message to the message controller. So here is the message controller, and we say send message is this one, and this will become this dot socket, and everything seems fine. And similar to this will become message controller with the message controller capital M, and finally import message controller dot JS file and message controller dot send message. That's so easy. You can see everything looking really good. And now since we have everything, we can just final check, and yes, working super duper fine. Now since we have these things, let's now move and make this application more amazing. Right now in our application there is a room 1 which is actually just a dummy behind this random ID. So whenever I do the refresh and click on the room, it's going to generate a new random ID, and that will be a new random room. So why can't we have a button here which will say new room, and then that room will be coming here on the left side, and any user can just see how many rooms we have, and then that user can join that room. So simple, very simple thing is, first let's remove this chats because we don't need it. So first we can go on our client side, and then we have the pages. We don't need chats pages, so just remove it. And on the router we can remove this route for that chat. Now what we can do, we can go on the header, and just like we have this chat like this one, we can actually create a button called new room. Okay, now this is not going to move me any other places. What we have to do, we just need to listen for the on click event for this button and say create new room. This is a function we are going to create here. So let's create a function called create new room, and we will do something inside this. So let's see. Yeah, that's good, new room, but we don't need any room button for now. We will see how we can do that later. And this button has to be on the right side. So what I can do, I can create a box here, and this box will just going to have both of these things, and this will be having sx. First let's import this box so that we have it, and then we will say that this is going to be a display of flex, and we need justify content to space between. Okay, so we have this link, and then we say inside a span tag, or maybe we can use one more box which is going to hold all the left buttons, and then we have a right button of new room. So see, home is here and new room is on the right side. Okay, so let's go on the home page, and here we have a welcome to my chat app. Then click on new room. It should create a new room and move the user to that particular room. Okay, so we have to create a new room. And how do we create a new room? It's simple. We need to navigate user to this new room ID. So let's create the navigate is equal to use navigate. Okay, and this will come from React Router DOM, so we can do like this. Is this correct? Yeah. So then we say navigate, and here we provide something like this. So navigate to room / new room ID, which is using this random view ID. And instead of this, I can move it here because every time we want a new ID and not the same ID every time we click. So let's click on new room, and you can see I am on this particular room. Okay, so if I click on another room, that's every time we create, it's going to land me to a different room. That's so easy thing. So on any kind of room I can go and just start doing the chats. So hey, yes, it's working. Right, that's cool. So this is how we can create a new room button. But what we need, if we have this room, user doesn't know is there any room or not. So what we have to do, on after this home, we should have a button for this particular room which user has created. So once the user is creating a new room, we need to broadcast this information back to our application. So we are having this, all these things are good, but when we go on any room, then yes, we say that join room. So the user is joining that room. So at this time, when the user is joining this room, we need to broadcast back that hey, there is a new room available. Now let's go on the room controller, and here we have the join room. We are just making the join for this user, but we can say this dot socket, and we want to broadcast to everywhere. So broadcast dot emit new room created. Okay, but this will not going to happen every time. This will only going to happen when the user has created. So this means we can go when we have created the room, we can get the socket. So we can get the socket from our room. This is how we get the socket. So we get the socket, and from the React router DOM we have to import this, use context. We have the socket, and we say socket dot emit new room created and the room ID. So we are creating a new event called new room created, and on the room controller we have to go and just create another method called new room created, and this will get room ID. And finally we have to broadcast to everywhere that hey, new room is created with the new room ID, like this. Okay, so let's register this one on our sockets. So here we have the socket. After this we can say on new room created room dot new room created. That's good. Okay, so we have done this, and let's now go on our header, and in this case we need to say use effect, get the snippet, clear it, and then here we say that whenever there is a change in the socket, and if we don't have the socket, just do nothing. But if we have the socket, then listen for some event, which is new room created, and we get the room ID. Okay, since we have the room ID, we can create a use state. So use state which will going to hold the rooms. Okay, initially it's empty, and then once we have the room ID, then we simply say that set rooms, and then we spread out the possible rooms we have, and then we just going to add another room ID like here. Okay, so it's going to be the rooms. Now this rooms we have, and we can loop over the room like here and create the buttons. Good. So we have to say simple thing which is like hey, rooms dot map, and we get one room here, and inside this we just need to do this. Okay, and finally just have the room as the room name, and here also it will go and take me to the room. So state, use state, it has to be imported. Cool, that's done. And now it says socket is out of context. What happened here? Okay, so it says that this socket is not available on the header. Why? Because if you go on the client side, on the index, not index, on the app, we are having this header on our not on our outlet. So the socket is only available on the outlet. So we can simply pass the socket as the prop because it's a normal component. Header is a normal component. So in that case we don't have to use the use context thing, and that's it. That's the only thing we have to do. Let's try this once again. Yeah, that's good. And let's start with scratch. So now we don't have any room. Let's click on new room. So that's good. Maybe what we can do, we can just go to home and create another one. Okay, let's create a new room, and it should populate a new room. You can see there is a new button here also, which is giving me the new room. But you know, I want the new room to be added on my side also. So when we create the room, yes, we are navigating, we are sending the socket. Also, we need to set room and add the room, and we are doing similar things here. So this is for the room which I have created, and this means if I click on new room like this, that room is available here and also on other window. So on every window actually. So user from this side can also click here and join and then start chatting. You can see it's working fine. Wow, that's really amazing. Okay, so what next? If we go on the home page and reload this application, you can see we lose the room name or the room button from here. So how do we do that? How do we persist this room? Let's use the MongoDB database to store the room information. So now let's have a mongoose in our application. So search for mongoose and go here, and you first need to read the documentation. And here we have a quick start with npm install mongoose save. So for that we can go on our backend. So cd on the server, then install it. Okay, so while this is installing, we can actually see what we have to do next. On our server side, we can go and get started with the mongoose, and for that we need to import it, and then we can connect with the MongoDB we have. So let's require this on our index.js, and here we can simply say import mongoose from mongoose. Okay, that's good. And then we need to do this await of mongoose dot connect, and then we can move forward by creating the schema. Okay, so how do we do that? So first thing is let's move these import, or maybe we can just do like here, and now we can say mongoose dot connect, and this will going to be connected to the URL for our MongoDB. So it will be like MongoDB URL, and here it's actually going to be a promise. So there are two ways of doing it. One, you can do the await part here. Okay, once you do the await part, you can see, is there any error? So yes, there is some error. So let's see what error we are having. It says that you must need to provide some URI, that means the MongoDB URL. For that, we can go to the MongoDB, and inside this MongoDB, we can go to our product, and then we have the Atlas, which is a cloud-based MongoDB. Then click on sign in. If you don't have the account, you need to create the account. I already have, so I'm going to log in with Google. So once you are successfully logged in, you can go and create new database, and then it's going to first create a new cluster actually. So it is going to be the shared one, which is free for us, and then we will be able to use anywhere you want. So let's create the cluster, and since it says the project already has another free cluster. Okay, so we can create a new project actually from here, and then we need to just give the name. So MERN socket. Okay, so let's go on next and add member. So we have all the members, so create the project, and on this project we will create a new database. So now it says the build a database. So once again, we are going to use the free tier. So let's click on create. So it's going to give us a free cluster for this particular project. Okay, so we are using it, and now it says username and password. So bitfumes123 is the username and bitfumes123 is the password. Same, this has to be bitfumes123. That's good. So create the user, and it's created. Go to the database, and here we can see we have the connect. Now we can connect from anywhere else and then add the IP address, and from we need the from connect your application, and here we finally get the URL for the MongoDB. So here we are inside this, and password is bitfumes123. Right, that's super nice. And finally, if I open our server, you can see it says we don't need to use it here, we have to use it like this. Now it's good, everything is fine. And now let's click here, reload, and no error. That means everything is working super fine. Okay, so what next? We need to create our models, and especially for the rooms model. Let's do that. Let's start by creating a directory called models. Inside this, I'm going to create a file called rooms.js. This is a mongoose model we are going to create. So let's go on the documentation for the mongoose, which is here, and it says that you need to first work on your schema. So how it's going to be, so I can just zoom out and then go to the schemas, and first you need to import these two things and then create the schema for your rooms. So we are having the schema, we say rooms schema, okay, and then finally we say export default rooms schema. But with this we also need to say mongoose model, give the name and the schema. Okay, so we say mongoose dot model, and here we have this, and we give the name. So we say room, or we just call room, not rooms, because this mongoose will going to pluralize this thing already. Okay, so what it need? Room just have a name which is going to be the string, okay, and it will have the ID which is going to be the alphanumeric. For now it's a string, that's good. And for now these things are good in our case, and later on if we need we can do more if we want. So name and ID, that's super easy. That will become the room ID in later on. So now how or when we can store this information on our MongoDB? So first is when user creates new room, that information goes to the backend where we have the sockets. Inside this, new room is created, we have this new room created function, and here we can store the new room information. Simple. Okay, so how do we use it? How do we do that? First, we need to say import room from let's go up a directory, another upper directory, models rooms.js, and then we simply say that hey, we need a new room. So new room, and here we pass or we provide a name, let's say test, and then we provide the ID as room ID. That's super easy. And finally we say room.save. This is going to create the new entry in our database. Once you have it, then you are good to go. Let's now go and see if it's really working or not. So let's click on new room, and it's created, it's populated here. Go on the database, browse the collection for this project, and this cluster and this documentation, and here it's retrieving the database. And you can see now we have rooms and one room is available. So we have the ID and we have the test. We are not talking about the underscore ID. Maybe if you want, you can call it room ID instead of just giving it as an ID. So I can go on the room model and I can call it room ID. Okay, so in that case we just need to do something like this. And now let's remove this collection from here on the MongoDB. Go here, reload, click on new room. That's here, that's populated here. And now if I once again go and reload it, so is there any reload button? No, so we need to reload the full page, and this will going to have the room with the room ID, which really we need. Okay, that's good. But finally we need to persist. That means if I reload this page, we need to have the rooms from our database. For this we need to create a API on our Express.js. So here we have it, and now we have this app.get. So let's create the API, and inside this API I'm going to create routes.js, because this is going to have all the routes. So here, how do we use this routing thing? So first is we can go and paste it, and not just like this. Here we need to first import the Express, or maybe we can just say I need the router, and then we say const router is new router. Okay, and then we say router dot get rooms. Okay, and here we should provide the rooms. Now first thing is we need to import room model from our models/room.js, and then we say const rooms is equal to room.find all. Okay, and finally return, or not returning like this, we say response.json is going to be the rooms, like here. That's the simple API we are having. Finally we need to say export default router. Okay, that's good. And on this we have to say import router from API, like from API router.js, and then we say that hey, app.use and using the router. Okay, so here we have the router, and let's see if this is working or not. How do we check it? We need to go on our header, because here we have the rooms, and we need to create another use effect where we can fetch all our rooms. So we can just say const response is equal to await for awaiting the fetch http localhost 4000:4000/rooms. Okay, so now we need to create a function called fetch rooms. This will be a async function, and now called fetch rooms function here, and we can destructure the data by saying await response.json, and finally log the data and see if everything is working fine or not. Okay, reload this, and now it says we have the CORS error. To solve the CORS error, we need to go on our server side and we say npm install CORS package. Once this is installed, it's becoming very easy. Go to index.js, I say import CORS from CORS, and before everything, like every route we have, we say app.use of CORS. This is the CORS for the API only, not for the socket. and now everything seems okay. And reload and see, nothing is no error, and this rooms is pending. It's taking a lot of time. So why is taking that much time? So this long pending basically means on this we need to call the cause error. Let's see what we are doing next. Some error. Why? Because oh, I have to do the await part, which is going to be the async. Now let's see on the rooms. You can see we have the room with the name and the ID. Cool. So since we have the room, let's go on our front end where we are fetching the rooms. We have the rooms, and now remember we have this rooms state, so we can just set the room we have. So all the rooms will be like this. So we can call this as a rooms, we can say like this, and that's good. So since we have the rooms, it says object are not valid something something. So maybe I can just log rooms and see what we are getting on the console. We are getting then array, and then we have a name and the ID. So the point here is we are setting the rooms, but when we loop through the rooms, we say key as the whole room object. We can say room dot underscore ID, and here two part will be room dot room ID. Okay, and here we show room dot name. Okay, so now you can see we have a test room available. Wow, that's really amazing. So we have this justify, and between we have this box, and we say component is going to be the div. So how about having it here? Why it's spread all around? Because it's not about the component, it's about the box should enclose these two, the home button and the rooms. Now you can see room is here. So even if I am refreshing the page, I have the room, so I can go into the room and I can get started with my chat. You can see, wow, it's working. Super nice. So this is how we get started with the MongoDB and the room system with the persisting database. Let's connect our rooms with a user. Now currently we don't have any authentication in our application, but just for here we can use the random UID to create a user, and we store that user ID in the cookie, so that that will be treated as the logged in user. So how all these is going to work, let's now see. So we first go on header, and here we create a new link, and first we say this is a box. In this box, and here we can create another button and call login. Okay, and when we click we say login, and here anywhere we can create a function and say login. And what this is going to do, this is just going to store first create const user ID is equal to a new UID using this one here, and then we can store this in cookie. So for that we need to go to the client and install our npm package for install JS cookies. Okay, so we are having this JS cookies, that's good. And now let's import it. So import cookies from JS cookies, and we store dot set and setting the user ID as user ID. And once everything is good, we just say navigate user, so navigate to the home page. Okay, and we are done. So we need to say comma like this. Yeah, so we have this login ID. Suppose I am on any room, I click on login, I move to the home page, and if you go on here, you can see we have this user ID. We don't want this token thing, so just remove all that, click on login, and yes, we have the user ID. So if we have the user ID, we can say that user is logged in. Okay, so in that case, we need to first go on our app, and here we can check if user is logged in or not. So we can say is logged in, and we need to set is logged in. Initially it's false, but we need to check for cookies dot get. So let's import cookies from JS cookies, and then we say get item, and the name is user ID const user ID. So I said that if user ID is there, then set is logged in, or maybe instead of is logged in, we can call it user ID directly. So set user ID like this, and initially user ID is null, and if there is a user ID, then setting the user ID, so we can say underscore user ID and setting like here. Okay, so if there is user ID, then we set the user ID and we pass this user ID to our outlet and to our header, so it's going to be available everywhere. Now on the header, we accept it as a prop, so from here we are passing and we are accepting as a prop, and then we say that if we have the user ID, so here we have, if user ID is there, we need a log out button. Okay, and if user ID is not there, then we need a login button. Okay, so log out, log in, and this is just going to say log out. And what the log out will do, let's do this. Log out will just do something like this. It's going to navigate to the home page, but it will remove item called user ID, and that's it. So now it says socket dot on is not a function, but where we did something wrong on the app.js. Now see this. Okay, so this is not like here we say user ID is user ID because it's a prop. Okay, so reload. Yeah, we are back. So it says log out because we have the user ID, and we need to change the state on our app also. So we also need to pass the set user ID, on the header. Okay, so log out will also say set user ID as null, so we need to get it from the prop. Okay, so click on login, it should work like this. Click on logout. Yeah, so while log in, we also need to set the user ID like this. reload, login, log out, login, log out. Okay, so now we have the user information and the user ID, we can say, in our cookies. This is just for learning purpose. And then what we can do, we can associate our room with the current logged in user, or I can say if user is logged in, then only user can create new room. So this log in new room function will also be available if user is logged in, otherwise it will be not available. Okay, so just do something like this. So when user is not logged in, then there is no new room. Once user is logged in, yes, there is a new room thing. Okay, so just move the logout button on the right side. Everything is fine. Now let's implement or associate the user with a room. So the very first thing we need to do is go on the database and just remove the room we have. So once we remove the room like this, and then if I reload, we don't have the room. Wow, that's good. Now when we create the room, so let's go to the create room, which is on our API routes. Here we have the get room. This is for the room on the socket controller, room controller, new room controller. We are connecting the room with the name and the room ID only. So for the room, you can say room schema, the mongoose model, we also need one user ID thing, and for now it's going to be the string, which is treating as a user ID. Okay, so here we should also send the user ID from our socket. So we say user ID is like this. So when we create the new room, we create the new room on the header, and here is the button create new room. Everything is fine. Socket sending the room ID and user ID also. Okay, so that's going to associate our room with the user ID. Now I am logged in, and you know it's a fake login, but let's create a new room. New room is created. Let's go reload this page so that we can have the new data for the room. And you should see it has to be a new room tab, but it's not there. That means we're having some issue on our MongoDB. Maybe if I can check on our server, everything looks fine, and we can see we really have the room with the user ID. That's so nice. So if I reload, yes, you can see we have this user here. That's superb, 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 superb. So since we have the user connected to this, and what if I open the room on a new tab? So this user will be a different user, and this user will be another different user. So if the user ID we have on the cookie is same for the room user ID, then we should have a button called remove or delete room. Then that will be helpful to delete room from the database, and other person who has joined the room will not be able to write anything into the room. Okay, so how do we do that? First, let's go, and here we have the room ID. So let's open the chat window. Inside this chat window, we have this typography. We also need to say that I need a button. So button should be here, and this button will be like delete room, and we need to import this button. Okay, so button is there, and it will be like this, which should be on in a single line. So I say box, and the box should say display flex and justifying the content as space between, and yeah, that's good. And we call this as size of small. Okay, and variant is text. Okay, so that's good. Finally, we can click on this delete room button and it's going to remove our room. So color is primary, or we can call it info. All are same. That's good. Secondary. Yeah, this is nice. So click on this and it should remove the room. So on click remove room. Okay, but we have to create a function for removing this room. So this is going to be like here, and what a remove room will look like. First, we need to send a fetch request to a API to remove the room from the database. Second, we need to send a socket so that we can remove that room from the header. So there are two things. So const response is equal to await, and make sure this is async of fetch and localhost :4000 slash room, and comes the room ID. So room ID, this is how we delete something. And since this is going to be delete, so we say method is delete. Okay, and that's going to delete it. Finally, we say const, not const, we need to use the socket dot emit, and we say room removed. Okay, and then we provide the room ID. Okay, these are the two things we have to do. So maybe we don't do anything because it's deleting. So first let's create the API. So we have the room on the model, we have it. So we have the rooms, and then we say it's a delete rooms slash colon room ID. We will get the room ID, and we get the room ID. Say it's from the response of request dot params dot room ID. This is how we get the room ID, but we need to say delete one, and we say underscore ID is this thing. Okay, so once this is done, we can say data is a message says that deleted. Okay, so this is the API we have created. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to just comment this socket thing so that we can see that is it really be deleted or not. So if I open the console, open the terminal, click on delete room, and it says 404 room. So it should be rooms with the S. Okay, one more time, click on delete, and now it says what it says: connection refused. What happened? On our backend we have some issue. So backend says underscore ID for the model. Some issue here we have on this routes. So how it's going to work now? The problem is this room ID is the room ID, but to delete it we need to say like room ID, not the underscore ID. That should be working. So once again, go to the network, click on delete room, And yes, you can see the room is deleted. And if I now go to the home, reload this page, and boom, that's done. What next? Since we are done with the API thing, we need to remove the room from the socket. So we send a socket request. So we have the remove room. So new room created, or I say room removed, and here room removed function we have to create on the room controller. We say like this. Here we get the room ID, and then we are doing this. And if you want, you can remove directly room from here. So instead of creating this API we have here, we can directly remove the room like this. Okay, async, and we will get the room ID. So in that case, we don't have to do any fetch. So this is really amazing. So we don't need any fetch, and we just emit an event called room removed with a room ID. And once it is removed, we broadcast to every other people that, hey, room is removed. Okay, so if we get this event on the front end, we will going to remove the room from the front end also. So how this is going to work? We go to the header, because here we are having the room information, and from this array of the room we can just remove the room. Okay, so we have use effect. We have use effect where we are listening for the socket events for new room created to the room removed is also there. And we just need to say, hey, there is a room which is like rooms dot filter. We get the room, and we say where room dot room ID is not equal to the room ID we are providing, like here. So we just going to remove that room. So what we have to do, just go here, and you can see we have this logged in an incognito window, and here we are. So let's click on new room. So new room is there, but it's added here on the test. Why not on my side, the side where user is there? So this is happening because of one very important issue, is when we create the room, we need to get the room full room, and then we are, yeah. So when we do the socket.emit new room is created, then at this time we need to get the new room with the all information we need, like the name. Also we have to say test, and the underscore ID is test ID. This is just for fulfilling the room structure which we are following. Similar to this, when we do the socket.on, we are saying new room created. At this point, what we have to do, we have to just not provide the room ID but provide the full room. So let's go to the room controller. It says new room created. Instead of sending the room ID, we have this room from the mongoose. So we send the full room. Okay, so let's go back, and instead of getting the room ID, we get the room, and then we add that room here. Okay, so what we need to just do something like socket.emit, so that it will be emitting to every user, including the user who is emitting the event. So in that case, everyone will get new room is created or room is removed in, and with this it's going to be easy. So once again, let's click on new room. Oh, it says something else. It says room ID is not available. Something bad happened. So let's log the room we have and let's go back. So we have test room, delete this test room. So room is deleted easily, but when we create new room, you can see it says undefined. That means on the socket controller, we need to provide it as an object of room. So now one more time, let's go and remove it. Go on the home, actually here, go on the home. Oh, it's not deleted, so delete the room, go and now click on new room. You can see this time we are getting the room information, so everything is fine. Okay, so this is how we work on removing the room. Now let's work on the file upload with the chat. So here we should have a button for the file upload, and for that we can go on our MUI, the material design, and inside this search for icon on the component, search for icon. If we go on the component material and we say this is going to be a file, so we say attach file. We need this attach file. Go to chat window, import this at the top, attach file icon. We need this icon like here. So we have this, and we need an icon button actually, and this icon button will include attach file icon, and this button is normal button. Okay, let's see how it's looking. Good, this is nice. So instead of send, we have it. Now we can also say margin, and do we have the margin? Margin right is going to be 4, and is this going to work? No. So we can use the SX. Margin right is 4. 4 is too big, so 1 is going to be good one. Okay, so when we click on this, it should open, or it should start the, you can say start select file. So what we can do actually, we can create an input field, okay, a dummy input field of type file, but we hide this. So I say style display as none. Okay, so like here, and now if we see, yeah, we don't have that. But when we click on this one, we need this input file to be triggered. So we need to have a ref for this and say input, or maybe file ref. File ref we have to create on this. So const file ref is equal to use ref from React. Now when we click on this button, the attach file icon, on click we need to say select file. So select file is going to be a function. What it says, use effect is not defined. It's hit very bad. So now we are having select file, and what we do, we say that file ref dot current dot we say click. Okay, so we do this click event thing on that input field. So it's, you can see now I can easily select any file like this. Okay, that's super easy. Once we have selected the file, and once we come back with the selection, we should see the file should be on the log. Okay, so how do we do that thing? So when we do the change here, that means for this input field we have, which is the hidden one, we say on change. That means wherever file is selected, so file selected, or yeah, file is selected. Let's go and create another function called file selected. We get the event and we just say e.target.file, files actually. So let's open this, reload, click, select a file, and you can see now we have one file inside it. That's so great. Now we have this file, we need to use this file. So first we can say const file is equal to, give me the first one, and this is the real file we have. So after this we need to create a reader and say new reader, actually file reader, like this. And then we say reader dot read file as read as data URL and provide the file we have. And all these things will only going to work if we have the file. So if we don't have the file, then just do return. And then we say reader dot on load. This will give me the result, or actually this doesn't give me anything. And here we say const data is equal to reader dot result, and then we say socket dot emit upload, and then we pass the data. Let's now check this and go on our application, select a file, click, and it says reader dot onload is not a function. Okay, so what we have to do, we have to say this reader dot onload is a anonymous function, like this. So one more time, reload, select a file, and you can see nothing happened, no error. That means everything is fine. Okay, so this is good. And now let's go on our socket, and here I'm going to create one called upload, and for now I'm not creating any controller, and I'm just having this like this, and this will give me the data. Okay, so how this is going to work? The very first thing I can check is doing the log of data and see what we are getting on our server. So select a file, and we get a lot of data here, and this means it's working very fine. So const image is equal to data dot file, and let's now log the image. Let's see what's going to happen. So one more time, if we select it, and you can see it says undefined. That's not good. So basically we get the data, and yeah, we are sending the result, that means the file. Okay, so we have the data and actually the image we call it. So what we can do, we can use this nice little code to upload the file. So we just use this, and on this upload we give the file name, and file name is going to be the random file name, and we can say test.png, and the data which we already have. And finally we say socket.emit, and emitting uploaded with the data we have. So we can also call it buffer, and we say that data.to string of base 64. Okay, so on the uploaded, let's first see what we are having on this at this point. So if I send any image, we get the error, and the error is for fs. We don't have the fs, so import fs from fs. Super easy. One more time, let's clear the console here, select a file, send the file, and you can see no error. We are getting no error, but if we see we don't have anything here. So maybe what we can do, we can listen for this uploaded event on our chat window. So here we have a lot of listeners, and one more for uploaded, and let's just log the data we have and click. So we have some issue says callback argument must be a function received an instance of an object, but where? So here it should be. Okay, so maybe what if I do something like this? Oh, not here, here on the fs. One more try, and yeah, you can see we are getting the data and full image is there. So if I just open it, it should render, but it's not rendered because of this base64 thing. And you can use this image and show it here once you have it. Okay, so what we have to do, we need to read this base64, which we have it, and add on our message, add as the message. And finally we also need the type. For type is image, like here, and it's going to be the data dot buffer. Okay, that's the simple thing. And once we have it, it's going to be really bad, because once you do this, you can see it's having all of these things. But we can say that, hey, if you have the type as, where's a chat? So here we are showing the message. So we say that if data dot type is equal to image, then instead of typography, show the image tag. Okay, so this is the thing, like here, and the source will be the data dot message. Okay, so element alt prop. So just to suppress this text, I just say this alt re-render alt attribute image tag as image. Okay, let's do this. Okay, whatever the warning is, we are here, and let's see if it is working or not. Yeah, it's there. Now I just say width is going to be 200, and boom, see this. Let's open this on a new page, and let's have it here. Okay, so this is not good. Let me just so here we are, and just minimize this one also. Here we are, reload, click here, image is here. So that image also has to be on the other side. Why is not moved to the other side? Because on the room we are using, on the socket we are using uploaded. Now here we are doing this, and we actually need to listen it for everyone, and we are doing it. So we are listening for everyone, but it has to be there. Is it the same room? Not sure. Let's open with the same room, reload, send. It's there, but not on the other side. This is not good. So why is this? Let's just do this. You can see it's not doing it. Just do the log of one more time the data. So let's select. So it is only available on the place where we are selecting. It should be everywhere. So what we can do, we can just go on our socket, and remember, we need some room ID so that we can just pass it on the room ID. So socket dot on, it's off the room ID and then do the emit. Remember, on the room controller we have the not room controller, we have the chat controller or message controller. Actually we have the two, so not the off, it's a two thing. So two part which we are having. So when we do the upload, we have upload where we have upload. Yeah, so along with this I just need to pass the room ID also. Good, let's go. Reload, click, select, and it's there on the other side. Now it's on the other side, that means we also need to have it on the same file. So once everything is done, then we can just add the message to the person who is actually doing it. So go to the socket, we are emitting the event, and once again, if we are not broadcasting, that means it should be available to every person. So that's not good, but what we can say that this is going to be the message, and when we do the upload part, yeah, on the right, when we do the upload, and at this point we can say set of this chat like this, and the message is actually going to be the reader dot result. Okay, so we are not receiving it, we are making it false, so we are sending actually. So reload image, boom. It's working super duper fine. So you can see it's there, but it's on the both side, it's moving to the left, because we have to say that if it's an image just like similar to like this, and it's actually going to be the style. So if data is received, then text align, or I can say float of left and right. So click image, yeah, so that's good. So reload, one more data, yep. So left and right and left. I can make it 100, and that's looking good. Finally we are done with our chat application, and this is once again a normal chat application, not full-fledged, but with the socket thing. I have showed you how you can use the MERN stack, and you can do a lot of amazing things, including the file upload. If you like this video, just hit like on the YouTube Bitfumes YouTube channel, and like this video also. If you have any comment section is open for you. We will meet in some other videos. Till then, goodbye.